Geo-Zapping. I can go on the wallet, type New York, and I say, hey guys, I'm going to be in New York next week. If anybody wants to get a drink, DM me. With one click, and then I send 1 sat or 2 sats. Another use case that we found is like natural disaster relief. And if you type Earth, you can just up everybody. And maybe one day you'll be able to type Mars. Like, only Bitcoiners understand money. Like, I have studied economics at school, at university. Like, unless you have read the Bitcoin books, you don't really understand money.
Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by Matteo Pellegrini, the CEO of Club Orange. Club Orange is a Bitcoin-only social network. I want to find out about how this came about, your journey to Club Orange. And it's just going to be really interesting hearing because you have a lot of members now. There's over 19,000 Bitcoiners on the app. And it's a Bitcoin-only space, a place for people to connect. So thank you so much for joining today, and looking forward to hearing about this journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Staci, for having me, first of all. So Club Orange, which maybe most people know it as Orange Club, we just rebranded 2 months ago. So it's still like in the transition phase. What it is it's a social network for Bitcoiners. Now, why do we need a social network? Because most people don't kind of realize that the difference between a social network and a social media. Essentially, social media is when you scroll the feed and you get trapped online. On Club Orange, there is no feed. There is no posting. You can't go viral on Club Orange. The only thing you can do, it's basically 3 things. You can find Bitcoiners nearby. So whether you're traveling somewhere or in your own hometown. Number 2, you can find events. Again, when you're traveling, when you're staying home. And number 3, you can find merchants. So it's about going offline instead of staying online. Now, the reason why I built is because, I was joking before, but it's kind of true. I was lonely. I was lonely in this Bitcoin rabbit hole when I got in like 2017, 2018. I go into a rabbit hole, and then at some point, all I want to do is talk about Bitcoin, As you know, most people don't want to hear about Bitcoin, especially back then. It's even worse than now. So I went to a Bitcoin Miami conference 2021, flew back home. I went to a meetup. I remember I said, okay, let's go find the meetup. So I find the meetup. This was October of 2021. So like the peak of the bull run, the previous one. And so I went to this meetup, drove an hour. I'm in Los Angeles, so everything is 1 hour driving. And I got this meetup. And I was so excited, a little bit nervous because you don't know anybody, right? I go to this meetup, and like half of the people were like, did you hear about NFT? What do you think about this NFT? What about Ethereum? What about Solana? This was a Bitcoin meetup, by the way. It's not like crypto, it was like a Bitcoin meetup. So, so I didn't make any friends. And then as I was driving back home, I was like, there's gotta be another way to find Bitcoiners. But there wasn't one because, Twitter, it's like people, you don't know where they are. Nostr didn't exist, but even Nostr, you still don't know where people are. And so eventually I landed on this idea of mobile app, use the approximate geolocation. Now that means it's 10 miles radius, so it's very generic. Again, the joke is that we don't deliver pizza, so we don't need to know where you live. We just need to know the rough area, so that we can show you nearby, again, Bitcoiners, events, and merchants. And so, we launch, literally, that's funny because I had this idea at the top of the bull run, and we launched literally at the bottom of the bear market. It was November 9th, 2022. I don't know if you remember, was FTX blew up on a Friday. We launched the next Wednesday. Completely coincidental, which, by the way, it turned out to be actually a great time because when the price is 16,000, literally nobody wants to hear about Bitcoin. And so the demand for a product like Club Orange was even more evident. And so we launched a Pacific Bitcoin in Santa Monica. And I think the first day we had 300 signups. I was like, we must have a bug. There must be an issue, because also the other thing is that we launched this app from day one with a paywall, no free trials. And the reason is because I didn't want to recreate the problem with the meetup. I was like, okay, I built this up. It would cost me maybe $100,000 to build it. Then I don't want to, then people sign up and talk about NFT or, no Bitcoin. So how do I make sure that the people that sign up are actually into Bitcoin? Right. That was the challenge. For a little while, I was like, I should do a test. So when you sign up, there's like 6 questions, 60 seconds. And then I'm like, well, but what if you're a newbie? You just want to learn about Bitcoin, then you can, and then also you could be an NFT guy that knows about everything about Bitcoin. So eventually I just said, I'm just gonna put it behind the paywall. Kind of like Bitcoin in a way. Like if you want to use Bitcoin, you had to pay the fees. There is no free trials. So I put it behind the paywall from day one, and we had 300 signups the first day. I'm like, wow, it's incredible. And now we have 19,000. Obviously, 3 years later, we build a lot of stuff. But that's kind of the origin story of Club Orange.
That's incredible. I love that because you built it during the bear market. The timing couldn't have been more fitting, really. So it also brought in people who actually care about Bitcoin still when everyone else ran away. The people that were just speculating on the markets, it kind of left. So it was a good time also for people who, because a lot of people built conviction for Bitcoin during that time. That's when I had gotten into it later than you, but in 2020. But that bear market was what really taught me. I was learning about Bitcoin along the way and decided to step completely away from the crypto manipulation that I was, sucked into. And when that, it was hard. It was hard for people to go through that alone because you totally understand Bitcoin. You understand that this is like you don't care. When you understand what's happening, you know that you need to just buy more at this crazy discount that we were getting. But it still felt like you were kind of alone in the world. Like when people in your life knew that you spoke about Bitcoin and then this happened, you feel like you're just not on defense mode, but you feel like people are thinking, nobody wants to talk to you about it. It's like the elephant in the room, but you're still convicted. So it was good to have community during that time. It was great that you built it during that time and not just online. People can meet up, and I think people don't realize if you feel the same way meeting people in real life, which I love that the app was made to not have a news feed, to have the paywall. So, that people that are there to talk about Bitcoin and meet up for Bitcoin, events and meet other Bitcoiners. But just, I don't think like you realized that you felt lonely. And I think so many people didn't realize how lonely they felt as a Bitcoiner until they found a Bitcoiner in real life. And then it changes you, right? Like I felt that way when I came to my first meetup, and it was through the Orange Pill app, the first meetup I came to.
Nice.
And I was so grateful. It was amazing. My husband got to be around Bitcoin people with me, and he had the best time talking to everybody. And we make it our monthly thing now. Like we want to go to this event that's hosted nearby. And then we held our own meetup on the Orange Pill app, and it had a great turnout. We had an online community, or I built an online community with friends, and we hosted a meetup for Midwesterners, and people came from out of town, put the event on the Orange Pill app, and it was great. I mean, it's where else, I don't know where else you could find that, just finding community for people that have like-minded interests.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, by the way, the new name is Club Orange. I know it's gonna take a while.
Yes, Club Orange. I'm sorry. I know.
No, no,
I
no.
keep
That's
saying
okay.
that. I've
Trust me.
actually gotten used to it. I'm actually pretty good at it, but then it does slip out sometimes, the Orange
No,
Pill app.
of course. Even to me. So, but in any case, yeah. I mean, community. It's humans. It's very fundamental to our thriving. And also, one other aspect that most people might not realize is that at the end of the day, like Bitcoin without the Bitcoiners doesn't exist. It's like I know some people say, "Oh, Bitcoin is math," which obviously is not true. Or Bitcoin was discovered as if it was like under a rock or just fell from the sky. It's Bitcoin is it's kind of like the language English. We agree on this set of rules because it's beneficial for us. But if tomorrow everybody speaks like English, it wouldn't be in nature. It wouldn't be, oh, you go to the woods and you find the language English. So it's kind of about the same idea. So essentially, so what I'm trying to say is that Bitcoin requires Bitcoiners to run the nodes, find the Bitcoin, be on Twitter, create conferences, go to the meetup. It's a very social, essentially it's a social construct. And so, yeah, I mean, I have a meetup now. I actually have done now 75 meetups in 2 years.
It's
I have a
amazing.
meetup every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pretty sure I'm the only. I wouldn't know because we have all the meetups on the app now. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that does a meetup every week on Saturday morning, which is not exactly the best time to have a meetup, but
I love
we
it.
got 10 people, and it's some weeks is like the highlight of my week is going to the meetup. Even though I'm like I have family, I have a job, very, very busy. Some weeks you just, I can't wait to be Saturday, go to the meetup, and like for 2 hours we just talk about Bitcoin. You just, and then at the end of the day, these people cannot become your friends. But sometimes we don't even talk about Bitcoin. It's like, you talk about whatever else. No, Bitcoin is kind of the filter.
The filter to all the noise in normal conversations when you're around people. Cause I witnessed the same thing when we got together for our Bitcoin meetup. When I met new people that I hadn't been talking to online, we did like talk about what they're working on, what they're into, just to get to know people. But once you get to know those people, like you said, they become your friends, and you all understand Bitcoin and you know that about each other. You're not trying to explain it to them. You're not trying to teach them about it. You're just talking as people who understand what's going on in the world, and you're not
Yeah.
worrying about discussing the political news or things that aggravate most people, because you just know the truth of what's kind of going on and the manipulation, so you don't focus on those things. I noticed we barely talked about Bitcoin during our meetup, so it was really refreshing, because that normally you're trying to explain it to people. It's just
Right.
so different.
Yeah. I mean, some of my best friends now come from my meetup that that I would never have met otherwise. I invited to my house, they invited they invited to their house. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants more friends. Everybody wants either more friends or better friends.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that we're all busy. Like you don't
Yeah.
have time. You don't know where to find them. Church is one way to find friends. It could be political ideology. I could go to like a convention, and then Bitcoin is another. It's another. I think might be the greatest filter
Mm-hmm.
because it's such a. Unlike religion or politics, pretty much everybody has an opinion, and pretty much everybody is somewhat knowledgeable. But Bitcoin is such a niche still, especially the Bitcoin maxi, right? Because there is two kind of the people that own Bitcoin, and then there's the Bitcoin maxi. So you might own Bitcoin, but you don't care. It's like an asset to you. It goes up and down in price. You have no idea about proof of work or the nodes or none of that stuff. And then you have the Bitcoin maxi, where Bitcoin is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's an ideology. And so those people, they're very, very rare. I mean, I don't think there are in the entire planet. I mean, obviously I studied this at length because it's kind of part of the business. I don't think there is 1 million Bitcoin maxi in the world.
But do you think your
So,
is primarily, I would think that it seems like there's a lot of Bitcoin maxis percentage wise in Club Orange.
oh yes, of course. The app is for Bitcoin. Well, that's the paywall, right? That's the paywall. If you're not a Bitcoin maxi, what would you pay? Even though it's kind of cheap, it's not. It's like $3 a month or $100 lifetime. It's cheap, but it's not zero. And there's a huge difference between 0 and 1. And yeah, so that's the filter.
And it filters
Yeah, I
the
mean the
bots.
app is
And I
right.
think it gives people a sense of peace when because there's very many Bitcoin maxis out there who have that hesitation. And I want to know what your thoughts are on what you would say to them for somebody who hasn't yet gone to a meetup. How would you give them a sense of peace? Because what I see is, at least when you know that there isn't a bunch of scammers that can get in for free and join these meetups and try to, do bad things. You know what I mean? Just identity wise, or anything that you might be afraid of somebody who is manipulating you in some way. But it filters out a lot of that stuff because of the paywall. But what would you tell those people that haven't yet tried to meet Bitcoiners in real life?
Well, I get this all the time, right? Like, I don't want to tell people that I'm in Bitcoin. So a couple of things. Number one, there's no KYC. So you can be as anonymous as you like. We don't care about who you are, because we don't do ads. This paywall is not just a filter. It's also like a way to align the incentive. Because we don't do ads, we don't have to do KYC, meaning we don't care your real name, your real surname. We actually don't care about your location. So when the app is off, we don't know your location because again, we don't do ads. So no KYC, just use any name you want. I mean, I've gone to many meetups, of course. People don't ask for your name. People have it, like in a Bitcoin meetup, is assumed that anonymity is standard. So
Yeah.
I have people that come to my meetup that I don't know their names after 2 years, which is fine. You know, it's very, privacy is a big deal in Bitcoin. And so it's, so if you go to a Bitcoin meetup, you'll see that nobody's going to ask you your ID or your name or ask questions. You can be as private as you like. And you can just talk about ideas instead of yourself, instead of people.
Mhm.
So it's very refreshing. I've gone to maybe at least 100 meetups. Never once had a problem, you know, different part of the country. Never had a problem. Everybody's super nice. It's really a special. It's going to a Bitcoin meetup. It's still a unique experience, honestly. And I'm not just saying because it's, you know, I'm not trying to talk my book. It's a very nice environment. Everybody's friendly, fun, and also everybody's interesting because think about it. To go from a normie to a Bitcoin maxi, you have to go through such a mind shift. Like the money is kind of fake, you know, like there's a lot of fakery in the world. And so if you go through that process of, you know, the classic rabbit hole, you learn a lot about the world that might be different from what most people think is true. You learn about, I generally think I had a tweet once that went super viral, which is like, only Bitcoiners understand money. Like, it doesn't matter how much like I have studied economics at school, university. Like, unless you have read the Bitcoin books, you don't really understand money. Like, you could be talking to a PhD in economics as a Bitcoin maxi pleb, and you probably know more about money than that guy. So it's a very fascinating, experience and community. And,
Yeah.
we try to help creating this community as much as we can through technology. So one thing that you can do on the app is create an event. So you can create an event. We import events from all over the world, which, again, we have 700 events every single day. So you can find all the events nearby, but you can also create your own event. There is a group chat. Now we have a wallet inside the app where you can Geo-Zap. I don't know if have you tried Geo-Zapping?
So Geo-Zapping, can you explain what that is? I think, is that just
Right.
zapping for messages, or is that just a bigger?
Yes, it's basically, so we launched a wallet in February. And then somebody said to me, wouldn't it be cool if you could zap people based on their location? Like, that's actually a cool idea because we know roughly if you're in the US or if you're in UK. Actually, to be precise, we know where you were last time that you opened the app. So if you don't open the app and you travel, we don't know where you are. But in any case, so Geo-Zapping, which now went super viral, it's essentially you can go to the wallet, you can click on send, and then you can type a city, a state, or a country. Actually, and you can also type Earth, so you can zap everybody at once. So,
Wow.
yeah, you never tried?
I haven't.
It's so cool. Well,
That's awesome.
which state are you in, if you don't mind disclosing that?
Illinois.
Illinois. Let's see, I'm going to zap everybody in Illinois. And then you can add a message. So that's the cool thing, you can add a message. So basically, it's the easiest way to reach people in a certain geography. You can add a message. Eventually, I give in and I also let people add a link. So you can promote your podcast, for example, right? So let's say you have a podcast about Jamaica. I'm just making stuff up.
I remember you telling me once about Geo-Zapping, and I was like, oh, and I felt I was like, oh, is that when you message people and zap them? So that makes a lot of sense because geo is your geography. So that does it right there.
So, yes, just to give you an idea, so we have now processed almost 4 million transactions in 10 months. 97% is Geo-Zapping. And what's cool about it, what's cool about Geo-Zapping is that you can, so let me give an example. Let's say next week I fly to New York and I don't know, I've never been there, I don't know anybody. I can go on the wallet, tap New York, and I don't know, maybe there are 200-300 people in New York. And I say, hey guys, I'm going to be in New York next week. If anybody wants to get a drink, DM me. With one click, And then I send 1 sat or 2 sats or 10. You can send as much as you want. So that's one cool use case. Another use case that we found is like natural disaster relief, right? So I'm in LA. So 1 year ago, we had these fires, a huge fire. Actually, we had to evacuate because I was pretty close to the fires. We didn't have the wallet back then, but imagine you could zap people in a location because there's been a natural disaster. They don't have to give you their invoice, their bank account, their PayPal, nothing. It's completely unilateral. You can just airdrop sats to people in a certain location with one
So
click.
you can zero in on, let's say, the areas that were affected.
Yeah, you can do cities, states, country, continent. And if you type Earth, you can just zap everybody. And maybe one day you'll be able to type Mars and zap people on Mars.
That's insane. I did not know about this. This needs to be promoted more. I definitely will share about it constantly. This is such a cool feature.
Yeah,
I
it's pretty
mean,
cool.
because that way you're able to get your message out there. They know you're obviously human because you paid to get in the app, but then also to be able to send to say, I'm in the area. It's just a cool way. Like, it's almost like passing that friendliness on to and just being like, I wouldn't do this if I wasn't real. Somehow I didn't just pay for the app to come in to keep sending sats for messages. So even if somebody were to get in and think that they're going to do this, it costs too much for spammers to try to do this kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. But you must have received Geo-Zapping from
I did. I
me.
have received, but I just didn't know how. I thought maybe somebody messaged a group directly. I wasn't sure how that I received sats, though. I was like, that's awesome. That's so nice.
Yeah, so you can also, we went all out on zapping because it's such a cool thing. And also we want to incentivize people to see Bitcoin as money. Not I'm gonna hoard the Bitcoin in cold storage. I'm just gonna leave it there for 10 years and do nothing with it, which is fine. But if this is kind of philosophical, but if Bitcoin does not evolve from store of value to medium of exchange, it could be a problem because it's going to centralize eventually. But if Bitcoin is the medium of exchange, it means I'm going to send your sat to you, you send it to somebody else. So it decentralizes by being a medium of exchange. Store of value centralizes. So it's good that people actually use Bitcoin as money, which, obviously is the intention of the creator. It's in the title. And so we actually put zapping everywhere. So group chat, if you're part of a group chat, there is a strike icon on the top, and you can zap everybody on the group chat. You can zap people, again, Geo-Zapping. You can also type a distance. So we call it proximity zapping. So you can say, I want to zap everybody within 21 miles or 100 miles or 1 mile, if there's anybody 1 mile. And, and you can do that. Then we have tap zapping, which is pretty cool. So if you double tap on a message, it will send 1 sat to that message. Kind of like likes, but with real value. And, we just want to incentivize people to see Bitcoin as money.
Quick shout out to Altair Mining, an American Bitcoin mining company, making mining equipment simple and accessible. They've got everything from the newest at-home lottery miner, the Nerd QX, to powerful Bitcoin amp miners, plus everything you need to get started. All the accessories you need, support, consulting, troubleshooting, and maintenance. If you're curious about mining or upgrading your setup, check them out with the link below. It's never too late to learn about mining, and Altair Tech is here to help you every step of the way. Yes.
And so here's an interesting thing that I found shocking. Number one, so we didn't have the wallet for like 2 years, right? But we had a way where you can add your own wallet to your profile. And then I could zap you from, I can't remember how it worked. Anyway, you could zap people without the wallet, right? So, and then people was like, oh, but what is it zapping? Get a Lightning wallet. Get your LN URL or your LN address, put in your profile, and then you can get people to send you stuff. And I'm like, what is Lightning Network? So I was really shocked to find out that basically, so on Club Orange, again, completely paywall, no free trial, 80% of people on Club Orange, they don't know what's the Lightning Network. And so at some point I'm like, okay, back then we had like 10,000 people, right? So 8,000 people had no idea of how the Lightning, and I was like, I cannot explain to 8,000 people how does the Lightning Network work, where'd you get the wallet. So I'm just going to build the wallet inside the app. So by default, everybody has the Lightning Network access. So we'll give you so you probably know this, but when you go to the wallet, you get the address, which is you can use it anywhere else, right? It's completely interoperable. And people have like, oh, why people are sending me? So now people message me and ask me, wait, why am I getting all these sats? So I have to explain, there's a Geo-Zapping, and it's like, but why? And people like ask me, but why do people send me sats? I was like, because it's like fun, it's like money, it's like tipping, it's like, it's like a like,
spreading
but
good
it's some
energy, just
value.
like, yeah.
And so it's, there is a lot of, essentially what I'm trying to get at is that there is a lot of education and learning that needs to be happening, even in the Bitcoin maxi world. So, we're definitely early. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
I'm shocked by that. I'm shocked that 80% didn't know what Lightning was. That's insane. But this is such a great use case. I plan on either releasing this episode as a GeoZap, a large one, or just a clip of that so people can hear that part so they know how to, just like a short and just zap it to everybody and say what it is and have to know, because people should know about that. That's a great use case, not only for the disaster relief, just for being in the area, connecting with other people, just if you want to promote a business or something to locals, you can do that. I just think there's so many great things, ideas that are missing from the Bitcoin world. And yes, Bitcoin should be used as money. A lot of people do the spend and replace thing. If you're going to spend fiat anyway, why not spend it in Bitcoin? And, it's like I always think for the amount of money that you're spending Bitcoin, if you're spending $100, replacing it with $100 and the price goes up even a few thousand during the time you replace it, it really doesn't make a dent compared to the price of Bitcoin. So I think unless people are spending massive amounts of fiat to buy Bitcoin, it's not going to really matter in the big picture. So you're just saving in Bitcoin. So I always believe that just use it. It's, you're able to spend, it's like sending cash over the internet. It's peer to peer. It's cheap, it's, and then you could do things like that, like send little bits to everybody, it's so easy to send money to people that way. So it is a better form of money and it should be used, So I think that's incredible to teach people and give them the Lightning wallet so that they just have access to it right away instead of trying to figure out how to explain to everybody.
Well, I will expand, double click on the spend and replace, which it's even better than that because people are like, well, I don't want to, they say, I don't want to pay capital gain taxes. And I'm like, why not? Actually, if you pay capital gain taxes, that means the dollars that you converted to Bitcoin have gone up in price, in value. And you only pay capital gain taxes on the difference between the $100 and maybe now it's worth 110. You only pay, let's say, 20% on the $10. So if you don't do that, you would have lost on $8 appreciation. And if the price goes down, there is no capital gain taxes. Essentially, and this it took me a while to figure out, like, there is no way to lose.
Yeah.
If the price goes up, you pay a little bit of capital gain taxes. Obviously, nobody likes to pay taxes, but it is what it is, on the difference. So you have made more money. You have increased your purchasing power than if you didn't do that. And if the price goes down, there is no capital gain taxes, so you don't have to worry about that. So you should always spend and replace or go all in. It doesn't really matter. Like this capital gain tax is such a hurdle until you realize you only pay capital gain taxes if you have won at this game of, invest, whatever you want to call it, right? So there is really no reason not to spend Bitcoin.
That is so true because you think about anybody who has access to any form of money. If they're saving it in cash, you're losing purchasing power anyway. If you're buying stocks and your stocks are going down, it's the same idea. If they go up, it's the same exact idea. So yeah, as Bitcoiners, we think the money system is broken and taxes are theft or inflation is theft. So it's just kind of feels all, but as long as you have to do it, as long as you should pay, you have to pay in the regular world for the same exact reasons, so it really makes no difference. You're right.
Yes, exactly. If you keep the money in fiat, you're gonna lose 5-6% every year. If you buy Bitcoin and it goes up, you share with these gains with the government, which I understand is not ideal, but it's still better than keeping the fiat and for sure losing 5%. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to think about just being on a Bitcoin standard, so, and then you're using the network, as you're spending or replacing, you're able to, find, I'd rather find local merchants on the I almost said Orange Pill. On the Club Orange app, I'd rather find local merchants and actually, choose them over a fiat merchant. So I love that you guys have that option because you can look around and see what businesses there are. Plus with, even with Square now accepting Bitcoin payments, and people enabling that more and more, there'll be more businesses that you can pay with Bitcoin. So I just think that it's a great way to strengthen the network by spending the Bitcoin. You're making it stronger. You're taking away from the system that we know is full of corruption, and you're not constantly using that system. You're not using the debt system. You're just converting that to a business that is Bitcoin, and you're strengthening the network you believe in. So it's amazing.
Exactly. Every transaction in fiat is a vote for more fiat.
Right.
Every transaction in Bitcoin is a vote for less fiat. Simple as that, honestly. Just you can vote with your money. There is no minimum age. You don't have to go to a ballot. You can vote with your money. There's a good analogy that Brian DeMint did once. It's like Bud Light. If you remember, he had a little controversy a few years ago, and they lost 50% of the revenue. That's a vote. People can vote with their money, and you don't have to wait every 4 years, and you don't have to wait. Oh, I don't like this guy. I also don't like that guy, but I'm stuck with these two choices. So yeah, I wish Bitcoiners would kind of embrace this ethos more. Like, if you really believe in Bitcoin, the more you use it, the strongest the network become. Again, it's a network. It's not something you buy, put in your house, and you leave it there. It's not a painting. Right? And also, the merchant might keep some of the Bitcoin, and in a way, you orange pilling the merchant. So I give you an example. So yeah, Cash App, 2 months ago, they enable merchants to accept Bitcoin, which is amazing. Although I wish, maybe Jack Dorsey listened or Miles, I wish they would do the other way around, where the user choose to pay in Bitcoin or fiat by default.
Yeah.
And then the merchant is opt-in if they want the Bitcoin. If not, they just get the fiat. Then, you can just go to all Square merchants and pay in Bitcoin. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Maybe one day. But there is a place in which I never heard of it. It's close to my house. Coffee place. So they launched Square, and I'm like, okay, let me go find if there is anything in Los Angeles. So I found this coffee. I went there, paying Bitcoin. By the way, I spend way more in Bitcoin than would I spend in fiat. So the business has made way more money because it's like one click. It's super easy. And then I met the owner of the location. He signed up on Club Orange, Lifetime. This is great business relationship. Now it's going to do meetups at the coffee, which is going to bring them more customer. It's a flywheel, right? Because also, what does it cost you to just enable Bitcoin? It's literally one switch.
Yeah.
So it's really a no-brainer for the merchant side.
And
You
if
get
more
the money
people show they want
immediately.
to spend it, then they have more of a reason. Like people should at least go in and ask, do you take Bitcoin if they hear more people asking for that?
Yes, exactly. So it's a grassroots move. It's a grassroots campaign, right? Like Bitcoin, see whether they're on Club Orange or not. They should go on Square, and those merchant spend $10, $20, on lighting, super simple, super easy. Also, it's very private, by the way. The lighting is actually super private. And like this is kind of cheesy, but be the change that you want to see in the world. Just don't wait for other people to do all the work for you.
I love that. And I love the be the change is so important because, even when you think about going to the meetup and you talked about the network earlier. So it's like Club Orange takes you from using the Bitcoin network to being part of the Bitcoin network. So once you meet with Bitcoiners, you have this energy because you talk about who you are, what you're doing. You meet Bitcoiners that you have no idea that they do the jobs that they do in Bitcoin. A lot of them work in Bitcoin, which is awesome. So you can open doors for yourself to spend more time in Bitcoin and do something you're passionate about, because so many people are trying to, once they find out about Bitcoin, they look forward to spending more time in it and spending more time with people in it and growing it and building things. There's so many people with ideas. And it's like, until you meet somebody, yeah, connections can open for you online a little, but meeting people in real life is a networking thing. It's a network, you know? So Bitcoin is the network. It is networking. It is meeting these people and changing your life, really. Like so many people's lives. I don't know if you've had any stories of people that have met up and really just made a change and started doing something different with their time, you know, instead of the regular fiat job they had before that they weren't passionate about.
I actually was thinking about that as you were speaking. Yeah, I have a lot of great crazy stories. So I think the most famous one was this NBA champion that signed up on the app literally when we launched because he was playing against the Lakers. So he was in Los Angeles. And today, his name is Matthew Della Vedova. I don't know if you follow basketball.
My son is a huge basketball fan, so I wanted to know the name so I could tell him.
Matthew Della Vedova.
Oh,
It's by Delhi. He
okay.
won the championship with LeBron. Cleveland. I don't know anything about basketball. I'm Italian, so I only watch real sports, which is
Uh-huh.
soccer. Anyway, so we launched in Santa Monica. Again, no marketing. Like we just launched, and then people start telling me, "Hey, I think you have a scammer." I'm like, "We just launched. Nobody knows about us. How we got a scam?" Yeah, there's this guy pretends to be an NBA player and then invites people to the games, free tickets. Okay, definitely a scammer. There's no way there's an NBA player in the app, right? So anyway, I reach out to the guy and I say, look, I apologize, but who the hell are you? Why are you pretending to be an NBA player? And he's go, no, it's real. You know, give me a call. So give me the phone number. So we end up being 1 hour on the phone call. And I was like, yeah, you know, look, you can Google me, whatever. So it's a real deal. And I'm like, look, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I'm the only Bitcoin NBA player, especially back then in 2022. I love to hang out with Bitcoiners. So what he did, he would fly all over the country for the games, right? The moment he landed, he would open the app, see who's nearby, and tell them, hey, do you want to come to the game? I give you free tickets, sometimes courtside. After the game, they would meet on court.
Shut it.
There's if you go to our Instagram account, you can see the pictures. And I was like, wow. And he told me, look, I have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. If I post who wants free tickets for this, I don't know, Dallas Maverick game, blah blah, I would get 1,000 in DM. Probably 99% are not Bitcoiners. Like I don't do that, right? Also, it's public. He doesn't want to be doing it in public. So anyway,
Right.
so he did that, and I was like, wow, what an amazing story! Like you can pay $3, and next thing you know, you're hanging out with an NBA champion.
My son would freak out. You don't
Yeah,
understand. I would love it if
yeah.
we're in Los Angeles next time. I will be on the Orange Pill app. That would be so
Well,
cool because I just
he's
want his sake because it would
of
make his
course.
life. You know what I mean? Like that is insane.
So
Wow.
he's now back in Australia, so he doesn't play in the NBA anymore. So if you go to Australia, you can hang out with him.
Yeah.
He actually he actually ended up being our first investor. So he went,
Really?
yeah. So he
Oh
went
my
from
God.
being a scammer to be, well, obviously he's not a scammer, but you know, in my mind it was like a scammer to an investor. And so
I'm
anyway, so
interested
that's,
if my son knows him. I can't wait to tell him the name. He would just love to
how
get
old is your son?
He's 14.
I don't know how much, but I think he won the championship in 2016. Anyway,
Okay.
it's
He knows
Matthew Della
history. He's
Vedova.
a weird
Yeah.
stats kid, so who knows?
The last team he played was the Sacramento Kings,
Mm.
which funny enough, of all the team this guy could play, back then when I launched the app, I was living in North California. So it was the closest team. So obviously I went to the game and we hang out, whatever. Anyway, so that's kind of one story. I mean, another story is that there is at least one verified marriage through Club Orange.
Oh my gosh.
And there is also a baby that came out of that relationship.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's another thing too. People are always looking
Yeah.
to, not only just for someone to date or for a significant other, but you want somebody who has like-minded thoughts or somebody you could talk to about this. And that is really crazy because you could go to one of these meetups and find your, future wife or girlfriend or something, boyfriend.
Yeah, it's
Your
when we
baby.
launch, there was a joke that's we're dating up, blah 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 blah. It was funny for a while, and then somebody got married, so the joke got even bigger, as you can imagine.
Huh?
And people have found jobs, people have found best friends, people have gone on trips with
Mhm.
strangers from the. I mean, it's 19,000 people now, 3 years.
Yeah. I
People,
found the orange pill, or I said orange pill again, Club Orange, but through Club Orange, I found, the Illinois Bitcoin Council. I found all
nice.
these great Illinois people that are doing amazing things. So it's just like the groups of people you find and the things they're doing. I found people locally who, just one person lives very close to me, which I was just shocked. I thought I was all alone in
Yeah,
Illinois.
yeah.
Nobody was around me. And here you find somebody that literally lives down the street, and people that we actually hung out with outside of, the meetup. We actually
Of
went
course.
out with this other couple, so it was
Right,
just,
right.
it was
Yeah, yeah.
insane. And
You
then,
probably, yeah,
yes, yes, I'm actually doing
yeah.
a space with him tonight on X. We're hosting an IBC space, and he's going to be talking. He's going to be talking about kind of the sort of setting up, what do you call it, when inheritance planning for your children.
Did he take you flying yet?
He didn't take, he wanted to, he asked if we wanted to go flying. He held a
Yeah.
meetup at his place. And that was actually the
So
first
cool.
time right before I went to my Club Orange meetup in real life. So they invited me because I was in the app, I think at the time, and they found me through there, and found the podcast. And I went to the house. He took us around in this golf cart, but he was flying people. They have a runway right
I
there.
know. Yeah, yeah. He wants to. Yeah. No, I've met a couple of times. Super, super cool guy. He wants me. I told him, because the story is, before I launched this app and before I had kids, I was gonna get a pilot license, and then obviously, kids, whatever. And then also the price didn't get to 100,000. I was like, oh, when it gets to 100,000, the first thing I do, I go to the airport. I had all the books. I bought the video game to the simulator. Anyway, and so he wants me to learn flying. So there's a documentary. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if he told you. There's a documentary that we did 1 year ago. And a guy from the documentary goes to Jeff. They get on a plane. Then he goes to New York. Then his flight get canceled. And he's like, and the hotel is super expensive. So he goes on Club Orange and he says, hey guys, I'm stranded for 2 nights. Can anybody give me a couch? And a woman that just signed up the day before said, sure, come to my house. Now, this is a complete stranger. It's all on camera. It's all filmed. Like, when I saw that, like, this is stage. It cannot be true. But it's all true. I think the documentary is called Is Bitcoin Just a Cult on YouTube?
Okay. I think I did watch parts of that, but I didn't watch. I meant to watch the whole thing. I'm going to link it down below. I'm definitely going to watch the whole thing.
Yes,
It's
yes. It's
amazing to
it's
see that.
incredible.
I saw
Yeah, it's
Jeff's
incredible.
part for sure. So I was
Right.
watching how they had him in there. It was amazing. And now that you say the title, I remember the title because it was something that I, it's hard to forget. But that is so I mean, I don't even know the words for that. That's amazing. That's different. That's not somewhere or something you see in the world. It's that shows you how different Bitcoin is, especially when you have an app like yours, a social network, or real life social network like this, where you've had great experiences meeting people. You said she just signed up, right? That day or something?
The woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
day
it's not
or the
like,
day before.
okay, I thought maybe she had previous experiences with Meetup, but no, you said signed up.
Yeah, the first thing she did is just give the couch to a stranger. Yeah, it's an
Wow.
incredible story, especially if you're a woman. It's a little bit more dangerous, and just, yeah, come over.
Mhm.
That shows the power. No, obviously, it's not about the app. It's about the Bitcoiners. Like, we want to help each other. We want to share whatever we can share, which is, life is all about that at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm sure that's just like the tip of the iceberg as far as stories. There's a Bitcoin baby that came out of this. That is so cool to think about that. But just knowing that, yeah, as a woman to be able to reach out and say, I have a couch for you, it's just shows you how, that if you're a Bitcoiner and you're on this app, it's just, you have a different principle. Like, you have different principles, so, and you're trying to help
Right.
each other out. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, another story, actually. I mean, 2 stories that they come to my mind. Actually, my story. So when we had the fires in LA, my wife was 7 months pregnant,
Oh, man.
and we had to evacuate middle of the night. It wasn't exactly a fun night. And long story short, so we have friends in LA, but I'm like, what's the point of going from LA to LA? Because there were 2 fires. I don't know if you remember the one here. It was a disaster. Somebody from the app, which lives outside of LA, reached out to me and said, hey, if you need a place, I have a guest house. So I ended up myself on this guy, again, total stranger, never met before, Me, my wife, my pregnant wife, my young, one of my young child, to this stranger, guy, lovely family, chicken, whatever, it was great. And so that's one thing that happened to me. Another thing that happened to me is when I went to Madeira. I don't know if you've been, there was a conference in Madeira, which is
No.
an island in the middle of the ocean. And I booked an Airbnb, and then I realized my flight was landing at midnight. And the the Airbnb also like, well, I'm not gonna wait for you a minute to give you the keys. I'm
Yeah.
like, how am I gonna get the keys? So long story short, I asked people on the event group chat, hey, can anybody go get the keys and put in somewhere? And somebody, a guy from London that was already there, said, yes, I'm gonna put the key and then I'm gonna put it in a park in front of the building. I've never been to Madeira. So imagine me at 1 a.m, pitch dark, on my knees with a flashlight on my phone trying to find the keys. And again, total stranger. I never met before. I never met it again. It's
It's like
obviously
having
be cautious. I'm not saying just, do this kind of stuff, but in Bitcoin, there is a saying, don't trust, verify. But when it comes to Bitcoiners, it's kind of the opposite, which is actually very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's crazy because when you think about the idea of it takes a village, or just the idea of
Right.
community, or when you need help, sometimes like who just to be able to have help wherever you travel and just like reach out to somebody and see if somebody knows something that you want to know or something, or just to meet up for coffee or whatever it is, just to find friends, and that you can have things in common when you find friends just to meet up for coffee, just to have a drink if you're somewhere new. It's like you don't feel like you're traveling everywhere alone. You have
Yeah.
already like a built-in community. And then yeah, like things like that, if you need help. I mean, just seeing how people are, offering, people are offering to do it. You're not just asking and nobody ever says anything, nobody ever jumps in to help. But there are cases where they have, and that's so rare.
Yeah, I mean, you can fly to all major cities. Well, not all, but like London, New York, the West, Australia. There's a lot of members in Australia. I mean, I know people I've met on a boat off the coast of Africa.
My
They were
God.
going to this island. I can't remember the name. Anyway, and they opened the app. They were both on the same ferry. I mean, such a it's very huge. I mean, yeah, you can fly to most cities in the world now, land and have friends, pretty much instantaneous friends.
It's crazy because I think even noticing the difference in the Bitcoin community, seeing how me and my husband and, there's parents, I've talked about how we have, parents that live near us, our kids' friends, their parents, and you try to get together and everyone's cool when you see each other for student events or whatever it is. And it's sort of like pulling teeth trying to get just another couple to get together with you for just dinner, and it's like
Yeah.
everyone's either so busy and nobody could ever do it, and it just feels like you stop trying sometimes to do some of this stuff. And then I hosted the Bitcoin meetup, and I invited people that I met through, the Club Orange, and then I invited people through my online community, and people came, and it was incredible. I was shocked at I thought it was just going to be me, my husband, and our one friend who wanted to come visit. That's what I thought it would
Yeah.
just have been fine with that. But just seeing how people showed up, and it's like they needed it. People wanted it. People have been missing that from their lives, from regular people that they just can't find. I don't know, somebody who just understands them. It's just, when you have been through something like realizing what's going on in the world and understanding what money really is, you just have this entirely different mentality, and it's so refreshing to be around Bitcoin people. So I just think it's crazy how you can get people together through this. People are looking for something. People are excited to actually talk in real life. And I would say that even I love that you keep people, or you allow people to remain anonymous on the app.
Of course.
And then because there are some people who have said to me, the fear of somebody knowing who they are and meeting up in real life. But then on the other hand, I think even if people know who you are, I think about people like myself doing a podcast, or anyone who's ever done a Bitcoin podcast, or anybody
Right.
who's ever started a Bitcoin company, anyone who's ever written a book about Bitcoin, every one of these people has put themselves out there to show that Bitcoin, you don't have to live in the shadows. You don't have to be afraid. You can if you choose to, and we respect that. And I think
Of
that's
course.
great, but also for people who are afraid, why would I do some of this stuff, it's because, the more the Bitcoiners show that they don't have to live in the shadows, they don't have to be afraid, they can share their voice, they can meet up and contribute to the network and get a Bitcoin job and be in the Bitcoin world. It just shows you that you're just growing Bitcoin as far as, all the ideas like you had, like to create this. And so I think you just never know where your life will lead and what kind of ideas you'll have, how you're inspired by other people, and how Bitcoin grows because the network of people grows.
Yeah, I saw a tweet once that was very compelling. It was called like a loneliness tax, something like that. Like when you don't go to the meetup, you might miss out on your best friend, or you might miss out on a business idea. Like when you don't actually go to the meetup, to the conference, to the whatever it may be. Like if we just stay, like nothing good, I mean, nothing really happens if you just stay on your couch,
Right.
shielded from the world. Like, like if you look at anybody successful that you admire, it could be Sailor, it could be Saifuddin, it could be whatever it is, right? They went out, wrote a book, started a company, bought Bitcoin, get to the conference. That's how life works. You have to go out, you have to meet people, you have to take a chance on life. And also, honestly, 19,000 members, 80 countries, 3 years, zero accident. And I would know, right? Like people would have told me if somebody got wrench attack. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm sure large number eventually there might be something like that. But it's like, you have to have common sense. Like it's the same if you wear a Rolex in the middle of the night in downtown LA or in New York, it's the same idea, right?
Oh, I looked that up recently too. I was looking up about somebody brought that up about being in the public eye and being a Bitcoiner. And I think when that happens to people, sometimes it happens to people who are very vocal about,
Exactly.
being
I'm a trader. I made $1 million. Here's the
right,
screenshot. Obviously, you're just
like
asking for.
bragging or showing off what you own or stuff like that. Like you become a target because you
Of
paint
course.
yourself a
Yeah.
target. So I think that that's definitely more the case for stories like that have happened. And I think that, yeah, you're right, for it being 19,000 people and not hearing, you would have heard about something like that
Of
happening.
course. Absolutely.
I mean, you've heard about all the great stories that are happening,
Yeah.
like the good things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure if
Exactly.
something bad happened, you would be the first to know.
So every Bitcoiners, as we all know, have lost their Bitcoin in a boating accident.
Exactly right.
I
I
don't
mean,
know why, but all my friends at the meetup, they don't have any Bitcoins anymore. So
it's so sad. It's so sad.
it's Bitcoin. Somebody should start a business to teach sailing to Bitcoin.
I know. Instead of just pilot license, we need to have a
Business idea. Anyway,
sailing license.
but joking aside, and this is something that I've seen done. It's never ever ever say how much Bitcoin you have, whether it's 1 million sats. Then some people just it's
Yeah,
they tell me on the app because I'm the founder. But I say, look, don't even tell me. I don't really care. I don't really care how much Bitcoin you have.
right.
It's not on my
Well,
business. So
it's not, yeah, not telling people that. And also, one thing about, I think, wearing the Bitcoin signal, for example, my shirt or your shirt, Club Orange, it's
right,
showing that have a symbol of Bitcoin on you as you're walking the streets. People can be paranoid about that too. However,
yeah,
that if you're wearing a Bitcoin symbol, you're spending and replacing, you're using the Bitcoin network because you believe in it, you're saving your money in Bitcoin, whatever that may be. You're working hard and you're trying to preserve that. It doesn't mean that you're wealthy. You just believe in a better future for your children,
exactly.
for somebody. So by wearing the signal, I think it's more not just, you're not one of the people bragging. You're saying it's a symbol of hope, a symbol for a better future, for people to notice it and see, why are people wearing Bitcoin things? What is this Bitcoin? So I think it's a little seed spreader, if more than anything. I think wearing Bitcoin merchandise and kind of promoting it in that way. I think it's
It's a
all good.
great, yeah. I mean, obviously, you don't have to wear it, and I understand people that they don't want
Mhm.
to do that. But it's a great conversation starter. I actually go in some of the most amazing conversation because I was wearing a Bitcoin, not Club Orange, because you wouldn't know if you're not in Bitcoin, you wouldn't know Club Orange about Bitcoin. But I had a Bitcoin logo. I had a conversation with somebody that works for a huge bank. I'm not going to name names, but they told me, oh, yes, we're going to launch a Bitcoin custody next year. I said, great. So, again, it opens up conversation
Conversation.
that you don't know where might lead, but, you don't have to wear a Bitcoin logo, of
Yeah,
course.
of course. Yeah. It's just about
It's up
not
to you.
afraid. More about the fear. And I think a good point for this year, for 2026, is showing that a lot of Bitcoiners that went through that bear market when the Club Orange started, and have gone through that sort of pain and haven't yet found a community or feel alone in their lives. I think it's this year. If you're going to make a New Year's resolution, it's still early in the year to try to see how this year could be different. And I think that showing up, making a connection, you can't, you're right, you can't say no to things, not knowing what could happen, even just as far as a friendship. It doesn't have to mean that you're going to make
Exactly.
some connection and have some business plan or whatever, but
Yeah.
just making a friend. It's so good for your mental health. It's good for, possibly your relationship. So I think that this is just such an amazing thing that you had this idea and you put it out there and have so much support behind it and people that believe in it. And there's obviously real world effects. So yeah, stop being afraid and try it out if you haven't. And yeah, let people know they obviously could find you on Club Orange. The Geo-Zapping thing is incredible. And you're on X too. And where else can people find you?
I mean, the easiest way to reach me is obviously Club Orange. I read all the messages, I reply all the messages. Of course, I'm on X. It's my name and last name, Matteo Pellegrini. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where you can find me. Pretty easy to find me. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
that's so incredible. I cannot wait to share this and, spread the word about the Geo-Zaps too. It's so incredible. And I'm so excited about your vision and your dedication to Bitcoin and keeping this, making it a Bitcoin app and making sure it stays that way. So thankful for you and what you've built. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Stacy. I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad. And enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm looking forward to, one day meeting you at one of these meetups.
Of course, absolutely.
Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.